So the next Primarch to be discovered was none other than Leman Russ.
Space Wolves.
Yeah, the Space Wolves. So Leman Russ, the Wolf King, is a name he also goes by, and also the Emperor's Executioner.
Okay, yeah.
He landed on Fenris and was initially found by some wolves, Fenrisian wolves, which are massive, like dire wolf type creatures, and sensing his animalistic presence, the wolves took him in and raised him to begin with. Now, the wolves on Fenris, they caused a bit of a ruckus with some of the local tribes, and they used to go and steal food from them and whatnot. And these are massive beasts you're talking about here. They used to go and steal food from the tribes, and this basically happened often enough that it caused the king of Fenris to send out a war party to go and try and cull the wolves back a bit, stop raining havoc on the local population. And they eventually, after killing, a number of wolves, got to the particular wolf pack that Leman Russ was part of. And to protect his wolf mother, he slayed dozens of these warrior men. At this point in time, he's like 1 or 2 years old.
1 or 2 years old?
Yeah. Okay. He's ripping apart men with his bare hands.
Is this like the child Arnie man that you see? That 8-year-old that looks like a massive powerlifter?
Yeah. The Primarchs, I probably should have said this at the start. They all develop like very quickly, like hyper fast, basically. And he's super strong, and he's just ripping apart these other men. Basically, he gets to the point where he kills enough of the men that the king sees him as a respected foe, I guess, and takes him under his wing.
Right. And I'm just thinking back to us Super Soldiers episode, which you can check out if you haven't seen it yet.
Oh yeah,
where we talk about Space Marines are getting augmented with all these body parts.
That's right.
But these Primarchs are bigger and have no augmentation. These are naturally, genetically, gene-seeded, grown barbarians.
Yeah, so they have all the organs that the other Space Marines have. They've just grown them naturally. They've not had them put into them afterwards. They also have an organ, the Immortus gland. This is a particularly this is the thing that the other Space Marines don't have, and actually the Primaris have 1/2 of this particular gland, and this gives the Primarchs their extra boost of physical strength and whatnot. The other thing to remember as well is their physical presence is one part of the Primarchs, but their soul is they're basically demigods in the warp that the Emperor's gone and collected and then put them into these Primarch bodies. So they've got those two things going for them.
This is part of the unknown deal that we think the Emperor had made with the Chaos Gods when he went on a little trip down the pub.
Yeah, rumours. It could have happened. Definitely could have happened. But yeah, so Leman Russ, he was taken in by the king, and while he was growing up, a couple of things he liked to do in his spare time was wrestle with the great Fenrisian mammoths. Massive hulking creatures. Used to go out and wrestle with them. And and he used to like to go and battle entire tribes, like rival tribes, on his feels like a Rambo kind of guy. He's definitely he's just Thor. Like if you listen to some of the old Viking tales, it's the sort of thing that Thor would do. He's Thor basically.
Nice.
He's on a Viking world.
Does he have lightning powers?
No, he doesn't. But he does have hyper senses. So he's out of the Primarchs. His senses are just a bit more refined. He can kind of tell certain muscle movements and what's going to happen next because of that. He's just got an insane like reactiveness or sense. Spidey sense. He's got a Spidey sense.
Nice.
Yeah. So the Emperor, when he discovers Leman, he realizes that he can't just go and say, right, join me. So he has to go in and kind of win him over just because of the way he is. So what he does is he disguises himself as a vagabond and goes into the great chamber where Leman's sitting. And by this time, Leman Russ he's the ruler of Fenris. The king's died. So he's ruling now, and he goes into the Great Hall where he is and where all his noblemen are and everything. And he's in disguise, so he looks like this tiny little guy, and he challenges Leman to a series of 3 competitions, and he says to Leman, you can choose what the competitions are, but I'm going to beat you in these competitions, basically. And if I do, then you have to bend the knee to me. Leman's like laughing, thinking it's a bit of a joke. So the first thing he does is an eating competition. You'd probably be on board with this one. And they both eat like a ton of food between them, but Leman wins the eating competition. Wow. So, strike one for the Emperor.
What was he thinking? Like, how would the Emperor not have a big appetite?
I don't know. I just don't think he was expecting it. Like, I think he thought it would be more kind of like, I don't know, physical, like fighting type challenges. But Leman's like, no, we're going to eat some food to start with. Like, man versus food. We'll get that out of the way.
Perfect.
And then, so the next thing is a drinking challenge. So they go and drink loads of Fenrisian mead, which is super potent stuff, as you can imagine. And they get to the point where there's just no mead left. So they're both drinking tons of it. But Leman managed to drink more in the time they had. So he wins that one too. So strike 2 for the Emperor.
Wow.
Then the Emperor he's getting a bit annoyed actually, because he's losing these competitions. And he calls Leman a drunk and a glutton. So Leman says, right, the final challenge then, we'll have a fight. And the Emperor reveals himself. So his true form comes out. This like hulking guy in golden armor stands before Leman. And they have a fight. And basically, before Leman can even start the fight, the Emperor just knocks him out.
Do you think that the eating and drinking loss was due to his small size that he transformed himself into?
I don't know. Well, it's one of these things where the Emperor, no one really knows what the true size of the Emperor is. And it's almost like you see what you want to see when you look at the Emperor. So everyone has a different opinion of what the Emperor looks like. And they always look similar to themselves in a way. So it's a weird one with the Emperor. But he can disguise himself. He can change or at least project himself to be different sizes. We don't know if he's actually that size, or if it's his psychic ability that's making him look that size, and then his psychic ability giving him that strength as well.
Interesting. But he won the fight pretty easily though, right? Yeah,
he won the fight reasonably easy. Knocked out Leman. When he came to, then... and he broke his fang as well as part of that. But when Leman came to, he likes a good scrap. Similar to Orc, actually, in that sense. Maybe that's why I like the Space Wolf so much. But so he comes to and he swears allegiance to the Emperor because he recognises him as a superior fighter.
Very good. So 2 for 2.
2 for 2. Yeah. So then he goes back to Terra with the Emperor and meets his brother Horus, who to begin with is a bit jealous of Leman, just because the Emperor's now spreading his attention amongst 2 Primarchs, where Horus has been on his own with him for 30 years. So there's a bit of a jealousy and rivalry that comes about there. The other thing is Horus, I don't know what grounds Horus has to kind of say this, but Horus sees Leman as a bit of a savage. So he doesn't see him as, refined enough to warrant the Emperor's attention, I guess.
The jealousy starts. The oldest child. This is how it starts, I reckon.
Yeah, it must be. I mean, Horus was just discovered first, so he wasn't actually the oldest child. If you go in order, then actually it's Lionel Johnson who's the oldest, because he's the first Primarch. They all have numbers.
Okay.
But yeah, he's the first.
Right.
So during the Great Crusade then, the Leman Russ gained a reputation as a cunning and fierce warrior, primarily during the Wheel of Fire campaign, where a third of the Space Wolves died fighting orcs. But because he managed to beat the orcs back and win that campaign, the Emperor gifted him his spear, which is a very important thing that will come up in the Horus Heresy.
Okay.
And that's Leman Russ for the time being.
So, if you've enjoyed this extra from my Primarchs episode, you can catch more of it in the details below. And if you like this, hit like. And if you really like this, hit subscribe.
And you know what I'm going to say, the ring-a-ding-ding.
Hit that bell.